Players are turning against the EVE Online developers, but players are entitled, right? Well, that will depend on who you ask and how you look at it. Of course, being entitled can also go both ways. Sometimes games developers are also entitled, and on the few occasions that does happen, it's usually because developers are taking their community for granted. Take for example the current situation with EVE Online, where a segment of the player base are especially unhappy with developers' CCP. The discontent surrounds a new product that CCP have started selling for EVE Online, which just so happens to contain a fully fitted ship. So yes, any brand new player can instantly get into mining for the low price of $19.99. To be perfectly clear though, and perfectly fair here, this isn't the first time that CCP have done this. They have sold other ships in the past, they've also sold skill points. Players then have finally had enough of all this and are starting to protest. A quick look over on Twitch and you can see the percentage of people involved in this protest. Yeah, that's certainly not an insignificant percentage. Here then is a closer look at that message. It says, "Warning, this video game will attempt to monetize your gameplay. You do not need to swipe a credit card to buy a spaceship." Learn more at the following website, eveblackout.com. And the website lists the concerns that the players are actually having right now. If you want to read the full message, you can find a link in the video description below, but let's read that first paragraph just to get a broad overview. For the past few years, CCP Games has systematically dismantled key mechanics relating to EVE Online's economy. Basic ships for basic combat have become more expensive and require more materials to build. With the scarcity, these materials have become harder to procure, and though scarcity's end came at the end of 2021, things are still scarce and the economy has yet to rebuild itself. But fear not, CCP in their infinite wisdom has decided that the way to solve the developmental challenges that face them is simple. They just give us spaceships for a fee. The general concept here then, the general overall broad concern is twofold. Firstly, that there's a slippery sloping operation here. It's not a slippery slope fallacy, it is actually a slippery slope, at least it seems to be that way. Basically, these packages have become increasingly effective over time in terms of allowing players to bypass certain content. There's a very real and understandable fear that at some point in the future, CCP will allow for the purchase of battleships and maybe even the highly prized Titans. Now keep in mind, such ships take many months and in the case of Titans, years to earn and achieve the skills to unlock. That would likely make them very, very expensive, and it could really lead to the question of just how much money would players of a space game be willing to pay to get such a ship? Well, you need to look no further than Star Citizen to get that question answered. Basically, players are willing to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars for internet spaceships, and likely the most famous internet spaceship game out there is indeed EVE Online. Basically then, are CCP on the scent of the trail of money? Well, as the developers as a studio are now fully owned by Pearl Abyss, another studio and publisher that are very much into heavy monetization, well, it seems a distinct possibility, doesn't it? So that's the first concern that the players involved in the protest have. The second concern is the, as mentioned, dismantling of gameplay. For nearly 20 years now, EVE Online has been the epitome of player-run economies. Essentially, everything that is achievable in-game, from whether you're buying a single individual bullet all the way up to the massive Titans, all of this is crafted by the players. It requires intensive work, it requires planning, and it requires massive organisation. Now, when you place such an economy in a cutthroat galaxy where players are very much against other players, then you are open to a realm of infinite possibilities, a very, very challenging game, and one which has created stories of intrigue and conflict, stories which many of us have heard about, no doubt. The risk then is that this very core feature, this prime identity of what EVE Online is all about, is very much at the possibility of being undermined by the developers themselves, no less. At least that is a concern of a not insignificant section of the player base who are now, as I say, protesting, specifically content creators who are running these Blackout series. Essentially, anyone who wants to get involved is running the Blackout video, the warning message, basically letting people know, making everyone aware of what is going on. So these are taking the form of a static live stream over on Twitch where this message is being broadcast for many hours at a time. And a funny side note here, the developers themselves unintentionally started broadcasting the message on their very own Twitch channel, and this thanks to the fact they auto-host other Twitch streamers. Basically, if one of those streamers was involved in a protest and started broadcasting this message, CCP's Twitch channel picked that up and started broadcasting it. Since then, CCP have switched the auto-host feature off. Now, as yet, there's no official word from the developers on how they feel about this. If anything, maybe there never will be. Maybe they'll try and keep quiet, but this is a pretty loud message. The player base kicking up a fair bit of stink here and making quite a loud impact with what they have to say. In short, what we have here is silence from the content streamers faced with silence from the developers. So essentially, it's very much a contest of who's going to hold their silence the longest. Let's see how that one goes. That then brings us to an end of this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.